What's good, y'all? And welcome back to another preseason preview video. In today's video, we're going over the Denver Nuggets. In case you guys don't know what preseason previews are, I'm going over every single NBA team, all 30 teams, going into a deep dive of them, giving a little recap of their offseason, and then going to look into the future and try to see what we can expect from them in this upcoming season. This is just the second team I've done so far, but give it some time and we will get through all 30. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Let's get right into it, though, for the Denver Nuggets. They're coming off a pretty successful season, I would say. They were the 4th seed last year, going 50-32. They had two super competitive and fun playoff series. First round, it went 7 games with the Los Angeles Clippers, and then in the second round, they ended up falling in 7 games to the eventual champion OKC Thunder. It was a little bit weird at the end of the season, though, because with just 3 games left in the regular season, the Denver Nuggets fired Michael Malone, the coach that they won the championship with. He's been there for years now. They fired him and then went and hired David Adelman. He was one of their lead assistant coaches. Now Adelman has a full contract and everything, but right before the playoffs, that was a little bit weird. Regardless, though, they had some playoff success, and now looking into this season, they look like they can have a lot more. Let's just jump into the offseason recap for the Denver Nuggets, though, because they have had one of my personal favorite offseasons out of the entire NBA. First, I want to talk about the guys that they are losing this offseason, because there are a few of them, including DeAndre Jordan and Russell Westbrook. Both of these guys are currently still sitting in free agency at the time of recording this. First off, talking about Russell Westbrook, he declined his player option, so he will not be returning to the Denver Nuggets. But last season, he was really important off their bench. He was one of their key, not even one of, he was their main key bench player. It's always, since the entire Jokic era, really, they've had a pretty weak bench. We'll talk about their bench in a little bit. But last season, it was basically Russell Westbrook was the main driving force there. He was getting downhill. He was scoring. He was playmaking, rebounding, a lot of energy plays. I do think that he will be missed in some ways, but also when we talk about the moves the Denver Nuggets made later on in this video, I think they did a good job at kind of bolstering up their roster so they won't be missing too much from Russell Westbrook. And then DeAndre Jordan, shout out to him. He's been a real high vibes type of guy in Denver for the last few seasons. He has stepped in and been the backup center to Jokic, but no disrespect to him. He's had a great career. At this point of his career and his age, he's not really giving you too much of impact on either side of the ball besides his size. So shout out to DeAndre Jordan, but again, when we talk about the moves the Denver Nuggets made, I don't think they'll be missing him too much. And then the last guy that will not be returning to the Nuggets this season is Michael Porter Jr. He, of course, was traded away to the Brooklyn Nets. It's no secret that MPJ had a very lackluster playoffs. I know he was hurt with his shoulder and playing through it and everything, but regardless, he was very up and down, where he'd have some games where he's looking good, hitting his shots, and then other games he's just literally not giving you anything on the court. I don't want to go too hard on him because he was hurt with that shoulder, but combine that with the amount of money he makes and how strapped the Denver Nuggets were with all of their moves, they couldn't really do much. So it made sense that MPJ was on the way out. And I mean, it's a perfect transition to talk about the guys they're bringing in this offseason, because he was traded for Cam Johnson. Amazing trade. I think this trade was the perfect way to set up this domino effect of all the other moves they made, because like I mentioned, Michael Porter Jr. made $40+ million a year. Cam Johnson makes about half of that. So not only do they bring in a player that's pretty similar level to MPJ, but they clear up a lot of money, allowing them to make all of these other moves and signings and trades. But before we move on to those, I do want to talk about Cam Johnson for a second, because I again, absolutely love this trade for the Nuggets. I feel like there's some similarities, but also some differences between Cam Johnson and MPJ. Where they're most similar is both of them are elite shooters with great length. MPJ is a little bit taller, but still, Cam Johnson, I believe, is 6'8", and again, elite level shooter. Ever since he came into the NBA, he has been a near 40 or above 40% three-point shooter. So that helps kind of swapping out MPJ. You're losing some of his three-point shot, but you're replacing it right back with Cam Johnson. And also, what I really like about Cam Johnson is I think he could be way more dynamic with the ball. I think he is a much better ball handler than MPJ and can do more off the bounce for himself. Instead of just being that, catch and shoot on the kickouts, he can maybe hit you with a pump fake, dribble in, and finish at the rim. He's very good at that as well. That wasn't the only trade the Nuggets made, though. They also traded away Dario Saric in a 1-for-1 deal for Jonas Valanciunas. Dario got sent to the Kings, and now we have Valanciunas coming to the Denver Nuggets. Without that MPJ trade, where they were able to free up some of that money, this Valanciunas trade could not happen. So again, that's why it's so important and one of my favorite moves of the offseason, because now the Nuggets have a real, true, solid backup center to play behind Nikola Jokic. I didn't want to throw too much shade on DeAndre Jordan, but I mean, when you're going from Jokic, who's the best player in the world, to DeAndre Jordan, again, no disrespect, it's a very steep drop off. So, now Valanciunas will help some of that. He is still a super big body, great rebounder, has very good touch around the rim as well. It was a little up in the air if he was going to be playing overseas this season or for the Denver Nuggets. It's already been confirmed, though, he will be playing in Denver this season and next season where he's under contract. Since Nikola Jokic is so good, though, and usually plays such heavy minutes, I don't think that Jonas Valanciunas is going to have some crazy big role on this Nuggets team. But just at the bare minimum, he's going to be able to be a average center during those bench lineups when Jokic is sitting, and I think that could work wonders. They also made some pretty good free agent signings in my eyes. First one is Bruce Brown. They're bringing back the fan favorite, and he only signed for a vet minimum. I was pretty surprised at that. I feel like Bruce Brown could easily give you production higher than a vet minimum value. Regardless, though, I'm sure he's taking a little bit. It's not a hometown discount, but it's a return home to the champion. You guys get what I'm saying. He knows that he's loved in Denver. He loves Denver back. So I'm sure, maybe took a little bit less to come back to Denver. If you guys have watched my videos before, you should know that Bruce Brown is one of my favorite role players in the league. So him coming back off the bench for Denver is going to be huge. Those do-it-all Swiss Army knife type of players, it's one of my favorite archetypes in the league. And that's exactly what Bruce Brown does. And then they also brought in Tim Hardaway Jr. on a vet minimum contract as well. Talking about MPJ and his three-point shooting, I know I said that they replace a lot of that with Cam Johnson. Whatever they don't replace with Cam Johnson, they will definitely replace with Tim Hardaway Jr. Being a great movement shooter, off the dribble shooter, again, bolstering up some of their bench. I think that he will be amazing just sitting in those corners on those kickouts to Jokic, or from Jokic rather, catch, shoot, knock down. He was great for Detroit last season. I'm sure he'll be great for Denver this season. And now that we recap the busy offseason, let's take a look at a potential rotation we could be seeing. The starting lineup is mostly the same with Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, the newly acquired Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. Then off the bench, we have Jalen Pickett, Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, Peyton Watson, and Jonas Valanciunas. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. You guys are going to have to let me know in the comments below. Do the Nuggets have more talent on their roster now compared to when they won the championship? Now, they do have a lot of the same pieces. Obviously, you still have Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon. They brought back Bruce Brown now. Christian Brown is a much better player than what he was as a rookie when they won that championship. And realistically, when they won that championship, they only ran an 8-man rotation in the playoffs. When you look at this top 8 right here, I think there's definitely an argument to be made. And I don't think it's a hot take to say that they definitively, objectively got better than last year. And Isaiah Hartenstein, a part of the OKC Thunder who won the championship, he, in an interview with Paul George, said that the Denver Nuggets were the team that pushed them the farthest. They pushed them all the way to 7 games and now got so much better. They added all of these depth pieces. They traded MPJ, who was really, really bad. If we're just keeping it a buck, he was really bad in that OKC series. Now swap him out for Cam Johnson. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but when you have the best player in the world and you surround him with good talent, crazy stuff could happen. And one of the Nuggets' main thing year in and year out in the Jokic era has been their continuity. They have been, regarded as one of the teams with the best starting fives in the league. Obviously, they did change that up a little bit, but I do think that they can keep a lot of that continuity because, like I've mentioned before, Cam Johnson and MPJ have pretty similar play styles, and then they still get to keep the rest of the guys around, like Aaron Gordon, who, shout out to Aaron Gordon having a crazy killer postseason last year. Multiple game winners, you know, the tip dunk versus the Clippers, and then the pull-up three in transition versus OKC. Just crazy hooper. I love me some Aaron Gordon. He just fits this team like a glove perfectly, so he gets to stay here. Obviously, you still have Nikola Jokic and then Jamal Murray, that dynamic duo right there. You know, I'm excited to see Jamal Murray this season now because with this extra talent, I feel like it should make his job a little bit easier. I feel like with the added shooting around him and a little bit more ball handlers or offensive power on the roster, I feel like it could make it a little bit better for him scoring-wise, so that should be something to look after. I did want to talk about some notable reserves, though, some guys that are on the roster that I did not have on that graphic right there. The first one is Deron Holmes. He was the first-round pick from the Nuggets last season, but unfortunately, he tore, I forget if it was his ACL or his Achilles, but he tore something in his leg, was out for all of last season. He is finally healthy. I was really big on him coming into the draft, and then, you know, to see him go down last year really sucks, but this year, he's been playing some summer league and has been killing it. I was really close to putting him in this rotation off the bench, but I don't know if he will actually make it because he's kind of a power forward center. They added Valanciunas now, so that kind of blocks out the backup center spot. I don't know if he'll be that power forward or not, or if he'll just kind of have some spot minutes. Regardless, I'm a big Deron Holmes fan, so shout out to him. And then also I wanted to give a quick shout out to Julian Strawther because he was not on there, but last season he was, besides Russell Westbrook, probably their most prolific scorer off the bench. I think that he definitely could see some rotational minutes. I just feel like on paper, Tim Hardaway Jr. is basically the veteran version of Julian Strawther. And when you're trying to win a championship, sometimes you got to just lean on your vets, lean on that concrete, solidified value of a player compared to banking on a younger guy. I still, you know, I think Julian Strawther could be a good NBA player. I just feel like they might lean a little bit more towards Tim Hardaway Jr. this season. Either way, though, I mean, we have almost never talked about the Nuggets with this problem of extra depth, if that makes sense. Like, last season, I wouldn't have been able to come up with these notable reserves to talk about because they would have been in the rotation because they weren't that deep. Now, seeing this team with this much talent, I know it's nothing too crazy, but compared to what we've seen in years past, I really cannot wait to see what this team could do in the regular season and beyond. And I guess that's a perfect segue into now the ceiling, floor, and my expectation for the Denver Nuggets. Starting off, of course, with their ceiling, I think that they could be as good as the #1 seed in a super talented Western Conference. Like I said, when you compare this to their championship year where they were the 1 seed, I think that they have, you know, on paper, more talent. I know the league around them has gotten more talented as well, but again, we're talking about their ceiling, and at their ceiling, I think they could be the #1 seed out west. And then when you talk about playoff success at their ceiling, I think they could get the 2nd ring in the Jokic era. At their floor, I could see them being as low as the 5th seed just because, you know, again, the Western Conference is so talented. There's a lot of really high-quality teams there. I do think, though, that the 5th seed is pretty concrete at their floor. Jokic, even when they were super hurt, has consistently been able to carry this team to a top 6 seed. Unless everyone on this team gets hurt, including Nikola Jokic, I really can't see them falling far below the 5th seed. And then when you look at playoff success, at their floor, since they'll be that 5th seed with, you know, some pretty heavy hitters in that top 4, presumably, I could see them being, at their worst, a very competitive first-round exit. Then when you talk about my expectations for them, I think they'll probably fall around that 3 seed. I can see the younger good teams like OKC or Houston outpacing them in a regular season. You know, so still top 3, though, is very solid for them. And then when you look towards the playoffs, I think that they should definitely make it past the first round, even though it'll probably be another bloodbath. When it comes to that 2nd round, though, it depends on matchups. It's hard to really gauge, but I think they'll probably be a tough 2nd round exit, or maybe they'll make it to the Western Conference Finals again. It's hard to say that they're a finals favorite, though, with how talented this Western Conference is. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments below where you think the Denver Nuggets will end. What is their seeding, and how far in the playoffs will they make it? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.